Hi, I'm Tracy Brown from the LA Times, and we're here at Comic-Con with Genndy Tartakovsky, the creator of Primal. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing very good.
So I mean, not a lot was known about Primal until Comic-Con, but what can you tell us about your show?
Well, the show is it's about this caveman and a dinosaur who share a similar tragedy, and it kind of bonds them together, and they kind of now have to survive the primordial world together. You know, and it's got 10 episodes, no dialogue. It's traditional, two-dimensional animation. It's very drawn. It's gritty. It's pulpy. Yeah.
I had heard before that there was no dialogue. What made you decide to make that choice?
Well, it's through my body of work. I've done it a lot where there's, maybe 3, 4, 5 minute sequences sometimes with no words. And I really love how visceral it feels. And those were always the sequences and the parts of the shows that people always reacted to the most. And so I thought, well, I wonder if I could put all those best sequences with no dialogue together and see if I could make a story work. And so that was kind of the beginning of it, to figure out a story and a setting where no dialogue is natural.
What kind of friendship happens between a human being and a dinosaur? I feel like in real life it may not work out that good.
Well, there's the way we execute the story. It's a little believable. I mean, considering man and dinosaur never existed together, you have to, there's a little bit of a believable jump. But generally, we're going after the animal and man relationship, right? There's always a bond. I have this big Saint Bernard dog, and she and I have this relationship. And dogs emote and stuff, and so we kind of cheated a little bit that the dinosaur isn't just this killing machine. It's actually a mother, and it's a female. And they have this understanding relationship, but it's not cartoony in any way. The eyes of the dinosaur don't squish or anything. She's very much a real T-Rex, and but because have this bond together, they are like man and dog.
And from the footage I've seen, it seems a bit scarier than some of your more recent work. What was it like to, I guess, dive into that side, some more tiger stuff?
Yeah, and it is. It's definitely something. It's mature. It's an Adult Swim, of course, and so. But it's also it's not violence for violence sakes. It's always very motivated. There's a very big emotional part of the show, and and for me, like the more character we build, the more emotion we build, the violence and the drama becomes even higher stakes and makes it just more fun to watch. And so. It's all part of it, and you want to do stuff that's different, in this day and age where there's so many shows, right? How do you stand out? And I've always tried to take the approach, well, maybe there's one thing I can do that other people can't do or don't think of doing, and that's my strength as a director, is to have my strong point of view. So I think all of that gets funneled in through this show.
What was it like to play with, I guess, dialogue-less? Because now, when there's no talking, you have to watch. Like the only way to understand what's happening in the story is you can't look away or you miss something maybe.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I really didn't think about, but if you start texting during the show, you're going to be lost. And what's happened is people, in the few screenings that we've had, people are riveted, and they do feel like they're forced in some funny way to have to watch it. And I remember we were showing the second episode to a bunch of people from Adult Swim, and my boss, and it was like a lunchtime screening, and my boss had a piece of pizza, right? And so the show started, he took one bite, and then he was frozen like this with that slice for the next 22 minutes. And then the show finished, and he looked at his pizza and was like, oh, I forgot to eat. And so that is what you're saying. They just get riveted to it. You have to pay attention. All the stories are told that you have to follow along, and things are revealed. Nothing is ever spelled out.
How based in reality is like this prehistoric realm? Like how creative were you able to be in that
Well,
setting?
I mean, the jump right away, we've failed with the man and dinosaur together. So if you can take that leap, the anatomy of the dinosaur is pretty close to real. A lot of the creatures, other dinosaurs and other mammals, prehistoric mammals that we put in are very accurate, So there's a surprising, if you are a fan of paleontology and stuff, you'll be surprised at how many things we do get right. And of course, there's an astounding amount of facts that we ignore. Like we wanted to do feathers on the dinosaur, but it was just going to be too hard to draw. And but other stuff is it's very close. And one of this guy that works in the show, his name is David Krentz. He's almost like an amateur paleontologist. He does like realistic sculptures and stuff, and he's had some input in the show. And but we've taken everything that we love about nature and watching nature documentaries and living with animals, and kind of translated it into this show. And at the same time, there's a lot of horror to it too. So we have some crazy pulpy, made-up creatures that we've come up with.
I mean, I think we as people are always fascinated by dinosaurs because we weren't here. But how long have you had like dinosaurs on your mind?
Well, I've loved dinosaurs in the fantasy part of it. I think a man riding a beast a dinosaur is pretty cool. It's just as a Frank Frazetta type of image. And so I think I've had that fascination with it. And, they're when you're around like something like an elephant or a rhino, like at the zoo or something, you get this feeling of such power, so I can only imagine what it would be like to be next to something that powerful. And I remember my wife and I were on a honeymoon in, it was like, I think in Portugal or something. Oh, it was in Madeira. Anyways, there were camel rides. I don't know if you've ever been around a camel really close, but they're like alien creatures, And we walked up to this camel, and it just goes, made this crazy noise, and you get this amazing feeling about it. And I wanted to capture it. Like I never forgot it about how I felt, and I was like, if I can somehow bottle that and communicate it to an audience, would be incredible. So I think there's an element to that too.
How do you like study movement for animals that you can't see or animals that you're making up?
It's a little bit of just a knack for movement. You just kind of understand, and you can definitely look at animals we have now, and they're very, very similar anatomically. And so we kind of, like we have these ceratops, right? So I looked at rhino runs, the way a rhino runs, even though they're not direct descendants. It seems similar, and it seems, we're bending the truth. So it seemed okay to do it that way,
I mean, humanity now, we're not having. I do not think we're treating nature very well. What is it like to come up with a show where that relationship is kind of? I feel like it's at the core, from what I know, right? It's man and nature is happening.
Yeah, I mean, the nature is the boss in this world for sure. So they're just trying to survive around it. They have no effect on it. It's ever changing, and we have flash floods and rain, and we do in winter, and it's part of it. And yeah, I mean, not to get political or anything, I mean, we're very much in an entertainment world where I want you to sit down and watch it and just escape into this world,
I mean, what are you most looking forward to when the show comes out?
I think people's reactions, because it is very unique, I think, in this world to have something with no dialogue and to be this visceral and violent and emotional. It's special. I think I'm very proud of it. I think it's some of the best work we've done. I feel like the last 25 years of everything that I've done, as we've done as a team, has built up to this show because it really showcases everything that we do really well, from the color to timing to some of the animation, and also to build one of the great surprises, maybe not surprise, but the success is of people who've seen a number of episodes, the relationship between them, you feel it more than a lot of characters who are able to talk to each other, and to succeed on that level is, as a filmmaker and a storyteller, is incredible. I mean, that's the biggest compliment I could ever get, is if people really fall in love with the characters. And it seems like we're heading that way. I mean, you never know, it can come out and nobody wants to watch it, I am very realistic about the world, but certainly it grabs your attention.
What was it like to get back into like a 2D animation show?
It's my number one love. CG is wonderful also, but to watch somebody's drawings on the screen, and this show is very drawn. It's not being shy away. It's not shying away from drawings at all. It's like there's a lot of line mileage to it. Everything's really dimensional, and you feel the muscles, and it's kind of gritty that way. Even the line work sometimes is kind of rough. So for me, for being a huge fan of animation, it feels great, you know, and sometimes we can't believe what we're doing, you know, because like, wow, that turned out so good. And it all kind of goes back to the way I felt, I think, when I think I was like 14 or 15, and I went to see one of the replays of The Jungle Book, the old Disney one. And I sat in the theater, and there was like a sea of little children all around me. And that film came up, and it's one of the best drawn movies. And I just got captivated by it, you know, and everything around me kind of disappeared. And I was just watching these drawings move, and the sense of reality became so different that I was like, wow, you can get all that from a drawing, you know. And it's like, you know, 20 drawings across can have you feel something and can emote emotion, and it's just incredible. So it's the illusion of animation, even though that's a very big cliche. It's magical, you know. And so for drawings to do that, we're not mimicking real life. We're caricaturing it. We're stylizing it. And it's what filmmaking is at its core.
Can you maybe, I know you can't spoil it, so maybe like 3 words to describe the arc of your 10 episode season.
The arc?
Yeah.
Eat, survive, don't die. Yeah.
All right, great. I would love to keep you, but I know we're running out of time. So
No worries.
thank you. Thank you for stopping by the LA Times studio.
Thank you.